In my analysis for composers number 23, I discussed Sibelius' Fourth Symphony, including several unique aspects of his harmonic style. Now I want to look at a passage in his Seventh Symphony that demonstrates some other aspects of his harmony. Here Sibelius takes a simple common practice device, the suspension, and explores some interesting new possibilities with it. It's important to understand the reason for suspensions in the first place. It can be hard for choral singers to sing a dissonance, especially if it's preceded by a leap. Here's our first example. This is easy to sing since the dissonant notes, the tritone and the fourth chord, between alto and tenor, are both approached and left by step. But what about the following example? This is much harder since all the dissonant notes are approached by leap. An amateur choir would need a lot of work to get it right. Now our third example. Here we have the same dissonance as before on the fourth chord, but the dissonant notes are all approached by step, and at the beginning of the last bar they form a double suspension, held over and then resolved. Obviously this is much easier to sing than the previous example. Suspensions originated like this in vocal music as a way to easily sing dissonances, since the singer just has to stay on the same note while the underlying harmony changes. Eventually suspensions made their way into instrumental music as well, even though unprepared dissonances are much easier to play on an instrument. The normal classical suspension consisted of a preparation that was consonant, then holding the notes over while the other voices changed the harmony. The suspended dissonant voices then resolved into a new chord. Sibelius was one of several composers who started playing with this classical formula. Here's a simulation of the start of his Seventh Symphony with the reduction of the score. For copyright reasons I can't quote a good recording of it, but there are many available on YouTube. It's worth listening to the whole piece. Please listen. In the first two bars, the rising bass line octaves are out of sync, creating a series of dissonances, each lasting an eighth note. Then, at the peak of the line, we arrive at a surprising A-flat minor chord in 6/4 position with E-flat on the bass. What happens next is beautiful, and Sibelius will use this idea repeatedly in the piece. First, the D arrives, calling the A-flat minor harmony into question. Then the top note becomes E, which makes it sound like a dominant seventh of A major. Then the middle parts change, so now it becomes a half-diminished chord. Then the F and the D flat arrive, each one changing the harmony again. Finally, adding the D sharp and B to the F sharp major chord creates yet another new sonority. To make this clear, here's the same succession of chords, but with all the voices changing together. Seen like this, it's obvious that this is just a normal example of what I call linear harmony, where the chords are more the result of smooth voice leading than root movement. The only exception is the F major change to root position in the second chord from the end. So in Sibelius' version, the harmony changes, but the voices don't all change at the same time. This creates a new kind of linear harmony where the changing voices create new expressive sonorities, not always typical of classical style. This makes the harmony much more personal. It's what I call an open technique, allowing any number of possibilities according to the composer's personal taste. Of course, this symphony also develops other motivic and harmonic ideas, but this technique recurs frequently, as it does in some of his other works. And the ending of this movement also uses a series of suspensions which don't resolve all at the same time in all the voices. Combined with some of the techniques I talked about in analysis for composers number 23, this makes up a significant part of Sibelius' harmonic style.